Greetings and welcome to the most original and cutting-edge true horror podcast on all of the internet.
I'm not too sure about the true or original aspect.
But we are on the internet.
And I'm not too sure about keeping you on the show there, Parolski.
Well then, hello there. I'm John Parolski.
I'm Nathaniel Martin, resident researcher and writer.
And my name is Nicholas Alexander, and this is the Scary Box Podcast.
Can't believe this is the episode you wanted to lead with.
Okay, you listen here, Parolski. It was either this or the tuberculosis hospital. What do you want?
I mean, 2 Ohio things in a row. Not everything needs to be about Ohio, Nick.
Hey, settle down there, Spazzo. You show some respect to Ohio, okay? This is the capital of the Midwest.
And the center of your universe.
And in today's story takes us to Northeast Ohio, an area known for its booming economy, industrial plants, and incredible sports teams.
Yes, decades and decades ago.
While our story today takes us back decades and decades ago, when a small township known as Boston was transformed into a literal ghost town.
Literal ghosts, as opposed to metaphysical or metaphorical ghosts.
Yes, potentially. We are hopping in a time machine to the year 1974 and witnessing the birth of Helltown.
The show to keep you up at night. Or something similarly cheesy.
A small, unassuming village in Summit, one of the 88 counties Ohio has to offer, rests on the east of the Cuyahoga River. Originally founded in 1820, Boston Township was nothing more than a community that happened to have a sawmill. It was such a quiet town that Boston Township didn't receive its own post office until 5 years into its establishment. That singular post office happened to be in operation until 1957, approximately when Boston's population peaked at 980 residents.
980 residents? Not a lot of people. It's named after Boston, and it has 980 residents.
I understand where you're coming at here, Parolski. It kind of makes you think of the Tom Segura joke. Well, bonjour, I don't even know where I'm at.
Yeah, just why name the city after an already known city? So Boston, Ohio. Can't wait to explore Helltown in Boston, Ohio, everyone.
If you're anything like my skeptical co-host John, I bet you're wondering how this sleepy township became home to one of the most chilling ghost stories and conspiracy theories in the history of the Midwest. Well, that is a long and somewhat confusing story that we are going to attempt to cover in the next 20 minutes or so, give or take improvisational humor and our own personal speculation.
And how long it takes you to read a sentence.
Hey. In the mid to late 1960s, amongst the societal and political unrest and America's involvement in the Vietnam War, the rise of civil rights activism, and the birth of festival culture in Woodstock, there was a giant push for land preservation for the first time since Theodore Roosevelt's presidency half a century ago. The movement called for more national park land to protect forests and the natural habitats of the country from destruction and deforestation. In 1974, America's football-loving president Gerald Ford signed legislation that enabled the National Park Service a newfound power to outright purchase land to create national parks and reservations. While this sounds like a brilliant idea, it would soon become the demise of Boston, Ohio, and begin its grueling transformation into the area we now know as Helltown. On the cold, windy morning of December 27th, 1974, a particularly damning letter was delivered to the new post office. Granted, this post office was only 17 years old, and the average age of a Boston resident was in their late 50s. This damning letter was a declaration from the National Park Service, declaring hundreds of acres, including the entirety of Boston Township, designated as a national recreation area.
So a park. It became a park.
Yes, Parolski, a park.
The great city of Boston, Ohio is now a park.
Damn right it's Boston, Ohio, not that trash of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm kidding. I don't want to offend anybody from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm sorry. At this moment, many once supporters of President Ford's bill soon realized this granted the National Park Service the power to buy everyone's homes outright from under the residents of Boston Township. Some negotiations were tried, but led to the inevitable eviction of all residents from the quiet sawmill community. All remaining citizens were forced by federal government to relocate. Many of the once residents of Boston Township were devastated, rightfully so. Generations of family members were buried in the town's cemetery, and this barely on-the-map community was completely wiped out of existence. The hundreds of Boston dwellers were evacuated for plans of a new natural park.
Was this the one where they had the quote about the Native Americans? Or like, now we know how the native...
Yeah, do you want the quote there?
I don't know. I thought it was pretty impactful because, you know...
It's kind of politically incorrect, but I can pull it up.
That's what, that's what my point was. Like, Ohio's politically incorrect was basically my point.
I don't want to read the quote.
In 1983, PBS documentary For the Good of All, this feeling was summed up, left in a statement, painted on one of the home's walls. Now we know how the Native Americans felt. Are you happy now, Parolski?
You have anything to add there, Parolski?
I think it's ironically funny that a bunch of white people think they were treated like the Native Americans because the shitty town of Boston, Ohio became a park. I mean, they renamed it to Helltown. Like, really? Those are your two options? Boston, Ohio, or the Park of Helltown, Ohio.
Of all the Bostons in this country to evacuate, why'd it have to be the small, quiet one in Ohio?
Bro, so what if this was all a ploy from Gerald Ford, you know, the, quote, football-loving president, to get a team called, like, the Helltown Hellblazers or some stupid shit in Ohio?
It's starting to make sense. It's starting to come together.
He wanted to build the first natural park that was actually home for a football team.
Settle down, Parolski. We need to move on. Come on. Perhaps most tragic of all, these former residents of Helltown would never even get the opportunity to see this national park built, as the town formerly known as Boston remains abandoned and neglected to this very day.
I love that he literally just kicked everyone out for nothing to be succeeded. See you later. And then they just leave it to rot. Boston, Ohio, where all the founding fathers used to meet. You know, where Paul Revere came running through the streets. The British are coming!
It just sucks. Like, how's it... Makes this into a national park, and then it's just like, yeah, we're good. We're done here. All these guys are out. Are we good? Let's go. That doesn't continue with it. If you were a descendant of the small community and wanted to travel to see your ancestors' birthplace or your grandmother's grave, you would be subject to a long, sad walk through the remnants of an overgrown and forgotten town on government land. This empty town, however, is still often patrolled by both park rangers and police in an attempt to keep the few structures, churches, homes, and single schoolhouse to rot. Now, if you're thinking of stopping Scary Box Podcast because you haven't been startled or spooked yet,
And I'm thinking of ending this.
this is where the scary story actually begins. This is where it actually begins, Parolski. Are you ready?
Yeah, I've been ready for the past hour and 30 minutes.
Buckle your seatbelts and hold on to your socks because a couple of conspiracies surround Helltown and its mysterious resolution. The first and most commonly believed theory by the local population of Northeast Ohio is the chemical spill. According to rumor, the town's residents weren't actually evacuated for the promise of a new national park, but rather that it was all a cover-up for a biochemical hazard that was compromising the health and safety of the region. The origins of this chemical spill are, of course, unknown. However, health reports state that several of the school-aged children in Boston Township had rare mutations. Some had extra digits. One painted handprint on the wall of a still-standing schoolhouse had 7 fingers.
That means absolutely nothing to me. Some kid, do you know how easy it is to, if you're like finger painting, you just put your hand against the wall and add 2 extra fingers, like, oh, real proof. Bloody handprint on the wall of extra digits.
What if, it's like one of the kids heard about the chemical spill and, they knew they were going to be leaving. So it's like, yo, let's just fuck with, future people to see what they'll think.
I mean, clearly somebody does.
They must have had a good sense of humor. But here's the thing, Parolski. That's not the only theory. You ready? Here's I think one of the most interesting ones. Are you ready? Another piece of evidence that may validate the chemical spill theory is the origin of a cryptid that is often cited in northeastern Ohio. This is the Peninsula Python, a gigantic snake that is reportedly 20 feet long. That's a big python. That is dark brown, spotted, and has the width of a truck tire.
Instant proof that it's a cryptid. Because isn't cryptid like Bigfoot and Mothman? So just because a big snake...
It's just basically creatures. It's monsters.
A giant snake isn't a monster.
Hey, have you seen a snake? They are monsters. They slither.
Yes, I am from Florida, Nick. I have seen plenty snakes.
It's not a regular Florida python. This is an Ohio python.
It's actually probably not even a python. They aren't native to northeastern Ohio in any capacity.
So what? It's a garden snake that just mutated into fucking Godzilla?
Yeah, just a Godzilla garden snake. That'd be a better name than like the Peninsula Python. The Godzilla garden snake. Coming to Helltown. Coming for you.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Coming to a Helltown near you. The Peninsula Python versus the Godzilla gardener snake.
With the Peninsula Python, it appears to be a mutated version of the common Kirtland snake. Do I know what a Kirtland snake is? Absolutely not, but apparently it was mutated by the chemical spill. With a few notable sightings in the region during the evacuation of Boston Township, this urban legend may indeed be the missing link to the theory. Do I think so? Meh. Could be. Probably. Nah. I don't know. Some more concrete evidence of the chemical spill theory, John, that doesn't involve a giant monster, is the Cretchy Dump, the nearest landfill to Helltown. This private family owned a dump that was just a few miles outside of Boston Township that was also acquired by the National Park Service in 1974. However, this property was never fully repossessed until over a decade later in 1985.
I want a dump named after me.
The Parolski Dump.
The Parolski Dump, aka the Scary Box Podcast.
Has a ring to it. Government authorities assumed that the Cretchy Dump was a common junkyard, just a common junkyard. But as time went on, park rangers and patrol officers of the area started to report ominous odors, hastily headaches, and even reports of recurring rashes.
Ooh, wow. Somebody touched some freaking poison ivy. Why is everybody going to a dump anyway? Like, oh yeah, let's go hang out at the dump. I guess there's not much to do in Boston, Ohio. I forgot.
One rainy spring afternoon of 1984, the most fascinating reports surrounding the mysterious landfill of Helltown occurred. A wanderer, Wendell Cravern, was walking the windy and confusing State Route 303. He was carrying a large bag to collect cans to try and deposit for some extra cash. Right after passing Helltown, Cravern saw the old dump and lit up with excitement. I mean, there's a lot of junk in there, probably a lot of scraps. Some junkyard scraps like larger pieces of aluminum or potentially even car parts that would be a lot more valuable than the cans that he was usually collecting. After hopping the fence, Cravern began feeling nauseous almost instantly. Despite this disorienting state, Cravern thought he hit up the jackpot and found a gigantic drum that he assumed was full of crude oil. He immediately rushed over and pried the barrel open. Within mere seconds, Cravern fell to the ground and began vomiting profusely.
I mean, like, oil makes me nauseous, so...
I don't know Cravern, personally. Hey, it may smell, and also, like, who knows why people drink crap? Like, there's people that drink gasoline, thought it would be good.
He never drank it. I was just...
I mean, I'm not saying he drank it. Hey, maybe he was curious.
But my point is, he's in this disoriented state, and he's already feeling sick, so let me just open this gigantic drum of oil that I have no idea, and then inhales it, probably.
You don't know Cravern? For all we know, he was probably that guy in, like, school where it's like, hey, I bet Cravern would drink that. I bet he'll eat the worm.
Just like you were, I assume.
Hey, no.
Nick had the cheese touch.
Hours later, as the sun already began to set, a park ranger saw Cravern with a pale complexion and manic look in his eyes walking down State Route 303. Again, this time with no bag. He lost complete sight of his goal to collect cans. When the ranger stopped him and asked what he was doing, he had no memory of the last several hours, but began explaining how dangerous the Cretchy Dump was and that the ranger should just avoid it at all costs.
This is crap. The guy, he has no memory of it, but then how do we all know that any of this is true? How do we know that he was in this disoriented state? If he has no memory, recalling his disoriented state, so he probably just got jacked up off of the crude oil from inhaling it or something.
I got two theories here. One, he has that crude oil that he's just getting, like you said, he just wants to get jacked up on that crude oil. That's more of like a bonus for him. However, I think with him also saying, like, from the Rangers, like, hey, stay away from this junkyard. Like, in my opinion, it's just like, hey, he wants to keep all that scrap for himself. It's like, I gotta keep all this scrap for me so I can collect to get the most amount, but I don't want anybody else to know my treasure junkyard, you know what I mean? I'm gonna tell this ranger here that just found me hey, stay away from my dump at all costs. But after this incident with Craverin and the Cretchy Dump, along with several reports from the park rangers and patrol officers, the Environmental Protection Agency became involved in running several tests in this area. What the EPA found directly coincides with the theory of the chemical spill, for the true reason Boston Township metamorphosized into Helltown. Thousands of barrel drums full of toxic waste and various chemicals were found in the Cretchy Dump, unlabeled yet easily traced to various rendering plants and factories in the surrounding region. Mainly the tire manufacturing plant in Akron and dozens of factories nearby Cleveland. Once this land was fully obtained by the National Park Service in 1985, a cleanup effort was attempted, but to this day, 35 years later, is still yet to be finished.
They must suck at their job then. If they evacuated everyone in the 70s, that means how much chemical stuff could they have put there in the first place? Yet they're still getting rid of it.
They're just taking their time.
I mean, it is Boston, Ohio. It's not like anybody's really in a rush to get there.
I mean, like, from the amount of, like, from how they're making it sound with this landfill and cleanup idea, imagine if, like, back then, they just, like, basically, like, in the Simpsons movie, they just got, like, a giant dome, just put it over Helltown, just, alright, now that you leave, you can't get in. But anyway, another prominent theory that many believe to be the cause of the government-forced mass evacuation of Boston Township is the belief that the origins of the town were much, much darker than previously indicated. Although not a popular theory with locals, for obvious reasons, many who have visited Helltown and lived to tell their tale of the experience believe Boston Township was one of the first fully satanic communities of the then western United States. While not much concrete evidence of this exists today, it isn't quite as far-fetched as John might think.
This is starting to get exciting.
I know, hold on to your socks, Parolski. It's about to get wild. Buckle up. Are you buckled in? Are you buckled into your desk chair?
Yeah.
Well, buckle it again. Because the northeastern region of Ohio was known for many communities created on the premise of religious freedom. Shaker Heights, only mere miles away from Boston Township, was known for their incredibly large Shaker population. Other nearby Puritan communities that still prominently exist today include the Amish and Mennonites. All three of these religious societies came to Northeast Ohio only a few decades before Boston Township was established. While Puritan religious beliefs and Satanism couldn't be further apart in terms of values at their face, and the fact that several different groups weren't afraid of a prosecution for their beliefs implies this wouldn't be the most dangerous place to start up a non-traditional religious community. Speaking of non-traditional religious communities, in 1831, only half a decade after Boston Township received its post office, Joseph Smith Jr. relocated the headquarters of the Mormon Church to Kirtland, Ohio, from where it was founded in Seneca County, New York. Over the course of the next decade, nearly 25,000 Ohioans would convert to the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints. Again, we don't bring up these organizations and communities because they are at all similar to Satanism in any way. But if you were a small group of Satanists, there might not have been a better place on the map in the early 19th century to build your official church of Satanism than northeastern Ohio.
Now the Helltown name is finally coming into play. Satanism, Helltown.
In the layout of today's Helltown, there are a couple of clues that may indicate a history of the Satanist population, because at the heart of the township rests a rather large church for the town's consistently small population. The image of Helltown's infamous church is a little haunting on its own. The large white A-frame style building totes a large cross atop the building, but right below the cross over the church doors are two white inverted crosses. This church goes by its own original name, Mother of Sorrows Church.
It's my favorite band.
Hey, if there's anybody out there looking for a band name, Mother of Sorrows Church, you're welcome.
I feel like they're definitely like prog metal, like
Thought it was anything that would scare Nick.
think like Tool, but even more pretentious.
And they wear makeup.
While the Mother of Sorrows Church may or may not have been used for Satanism by the original founders, the other church Helltown has to offer is no doubt home to modern-day Satanists. A smaller, brown church with boarded windows rests on the outskirts of Helltown and is the most easily seen from within the Cuyahoga National Park. I'm pretty sure I'm still butchering that, but let's move on. I can't pronounce that. Public school, everybody. Thank you, public school. Several patrol officers have reported breaking up satanic rituals in and around Helltown since its official closure in 1974.
I wonder what the church rate was back then. I mean, this town of 980 people had 2 churches. I wonder how many of those people individually went to each church.
It was probably half and half. Half went to, Mother Sorrows Church, and then the other half went to the Saints one,
One was Catholic, and the other one was Baptist or something.
Or perhaps, more hauntingly, they were both churches of Satan.
That would be cool. That would make this story so much better. But no, we're too busy talking about the python. It's 20 feet long. By the way, I looked up the Kirtland snake. That little bastard's only 18 to 20 inches.
Are you saying 20 inches is not long?
I want proof of where our Godzilla formed out of the stupid 18-inch snake. It's like the TMNT series, Like, ooh, we got the goo, and now they're giant talking turtles. I don't know. 20 inches to 20 feet. That's
like what, 10 times bigger, right?
Something like that. Several patrol officers have reported breaking up satanic rituals in and around Helltown since its official closure in 1974. Vandalism around the dilapidated ruins of Boston Township include many a pentagram, inverted crosses, and several common demonic sayings on the walls of homes, the roads themselves, and unfortunately, even tombstones of the dislocated family members. One of the most confusing things about going to visit Helltown is the road layout. If you were to enter the new Cuyahoga National Park, you would see many newly paved roads that lead to the park's trails and scenic views. But the deeper you get into the park and the closer to Helltown you get, you would find 2 worn-out roads, both with dead-end signs, despite beyond the sign being able to see miles and miles of road after. These roads are very old, with sharp turns and steep declines coming without warning. The archaic infrastructure of this township may be a design to keep unwanted guests of the satanic community out, or to even trap potential sacrifices in.
I think it's kind of funny that they're saying that the infrastructure of the town is to keep sacrifices in. What, did the Satanists just go there and redo the infrastructure? Or it's goofy to me. Yep, let's trap all our sacrifices in this town. Because how big was the town too, right? I mean, apparently you could see miles and miles of road, and then all the turns and twists in it at the dead end sign. So, I mean, if you could see all that shit, then why can't you get out?
Glitter reads kind of like a horror movie. Is it to keep people in? Or is it to keep people out? Helltown. Dead end.
Welcome to Helltown.
One more notable structure commonly associated with the iconography of Helltown is the abandoned school bus, splitting the distance between the Mother Sorrows and the schoolhouse. While the school bus might not have ever been property of Boston Township, it has been left dormant for over 35 years. According to local legend, the school bus was heading back from a ski trip in the nearby mountain range, but the bus driver got lost on the previously mentioned confusing road system. While driving down the windy and beaten roads of Helltown, a woman was by the side of the road flagging down the bus. She screamed, my son is dying, I need help." The bus driver pulled over and rushed to the woman's aid. After 20 minutes or so, the students began to get worried when the bus driver never returned. Allegedly, one boy left the bus to investigate and walked up to the house. He came back instantly running and screaming as several Satan worshippers in their ritual garb chase him with knives. The students on the bus scream as the satanic murder cult begin to ambush the bus for dozens of sacrifices to their pagan overlord. Good lord.
So if all those people on that bus died, how's there proof of this legend? Somebody could have just driven a school bus in there years and years ago and left it there. I mean, what? There's no witnesses, right? That's what I got from this.
A couple of other sightings. We're going to get to some testimony later, but a couple of other sightings of ghosts and spirits in this area indicate that the school bus may be one of the most haunted pieces on the entire plot of the town formerly known as Boston. People say they can see the faces of screaming children in the bus windows in the late hours of the morning when this ski trip may have gone sour.
Alrighty. It's just a bunch of screaming children on a bus, like 7 a.m, just banging against the windows, the school bus shaking back and forth. I'm just imagining a bunch of satanic cult members surrounding the bus, shaking it back and forth, like, ah! I guess your only proof is the bus, so not much there for me.
We'll never know. Whether you believe the allegations of Helltown now being overrun by a satanic cult, or you believe the chemical waste left behind in Boston Township being the true cause of its mass evacuation. One thing that is certain about Helltown, it is home to more paranormal activity than perhaps any ghost town in the Midwest. The still standing cemetery has the tombstones of its earliest settlers. While Boston Township was only inhabited for about 150 years, you can track generations of family in the cemetery. Due to the abrupt end of the settlement and forced relocation of the township's residents, many claim to hear the crying of ghosts while walking through Helltown. More visual claims of the paranormal have been made as well. One report of paranormal activity comes from a source who wishes to remain anonymous due to many trespassing arrests from urban exploration.
The second time I visited Helltown was the last time I will ever visit Helltown. It was late at night, very late, as that is usually the best time to trespass on forbidden property, unless of course you get caught. I had a single flashlight with me as I walked down past the Mother of Sorrows church. Off in the distance, I saw the school bus, and I knew I was in the heart of Helltown. Later that night, I walked past the Boston graveyard and saw someone sitting on the bench. It wasn't uncommon for others to explore the ghost town. There was always the possibility that it could be a stray local as well. Either way, I did not want to engage. So I turned off my flashlight and went back the way I came. As soon as I turned my back on the cemetery, I heard footsteps running on the road behind me. The footsteps got closer and closer. I turned my flashlight on so whoever was running at me knew I was there. The footsteps stopped. I turned around quickly. There was no one on the road behind me. I slowly panned my light to the graveyard, and the bench was empty.
Is this guy like walking around at midnight or something?
I assume so. He has a flashlight.
Okay, Nick, I'm sorry, but really going outside with a flashlight's really gonna make you see everything perfectly. Tricks of the ears, tricks of the eyes.
While technically the entirety of Boston Township is off the map and part of the Cuyahoga National Park, the 2010 census found that the population of Helltown is bigger than you'd expect. 986 people claim residency in Boston Township, 829 of which live in the unincorporated area commonly known as Helltown. Another paranormal investigator who has traveled to Helltown many a time writes this in summary of the vibe.
I have experienced much in my explorations of there, some of which I don't care to remember, and some of which I can never hope to explain. Helltown is not truly abandoned. It does have residents, but they are a strange and frightening breed. I have gone exploring the woods and cemetery of the area in the late night and wee morning hours, and have returned to my car to find strange people looking into its windows. This has happened twice, once at 2 a.m. and once at 4:30 a.m. Both times, the people fled as soon as they saw me approaching the car, before I had a chance to speak to them. Both times, they were dressed in all black. A part of me is glad that I didn't get to converse with them, because I have heard too many tales about the ways of Helltown residents. Supposedly, They are all Satanists that worship at the town's 2 evil churches. I have been to both of these churches, however not inside them. One, the Mother of Sorrows, has upside-down crosses hanging from it. I have also been to the Boston Cemetery, where a ghost has been seen sitting on a bench. This cemetery is a dark place, as I have ever been. The graves date back to the early 1800s. I didn't see the ghost when I visited, but I did hear strange growls and howls from the depths of the graveyard. This was more than enough to convince me to leave, as the prospect of getting attacked by some strange boneyard-dwelling beast was not appealing to me, to say the least.
I mean, if he did see the ghost when he visited, then we would have had proof of ghost on it. I didn't see the ghost when I visited. Oh, thank you for that useless explanation.
What if he actually did also get the chance to meet these people dressed in black? It's like these Satanists. He's like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Oh, dude, we just got done, like, killing this kid. It's fucking awesome.
I also like, though, the whole dress in black thing made me want to research what Satanists wear, and I just got a bunch of emo kids on my screen now. Satanist is a broad term, right? Like, what if there was just 2 guys just chilling in the park? I also like that he specifically has the time at 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. Are those specific, like, sacrificial times?
Yeah, I always thought, like, 3 a.m. was the devil's hour.
He completely skipped over it.
Before the sacrifice, the 4:30 a.m. could have been after,
Yeah, maybe that's why he's pissed he didn't see the ghost, because he went at 2 a.m. and 4:30 and just completely missed the best hour of the night.
He talks to them, hey, bro, come back at 3. That's when the real action happens.
I can respect him leaving because he was spooked, I'm... Definitely, when it comes to haunted places, I'm more scared of living beings than I am of the dead beings.
Not only is it a squatter that lives in Helltown, it's just a Satanist squatter.
I wish we had some witness to the Python, because that would have been cool.
There is a testimony, but it's from a while ago.
Wait, is the Python still out there? Nick, we gotta go hunting for a python.
Here it is, the significant sighting of the Peninsula Python. Clarice Mitchell saw an 18-foot snake crawling across his cornfield near Peninsula, Ohio, on June 8th, 1944. Several days after several days of effort, a posse that had been formed on June 25th failed to find any evidence other than broken branches and trails leading to the Cuyahoga River. Reports of a large snake were made all the way through August 1st by other residents of the valley, including Pauline Hopko, who said it slithered away from a willow tree in her yard and frightened her cows so much that they broke loose and ran away. Another possible explanation besides the toxic waste at Helltown, found in the Cretchy Dump, could be an escaped snake from a carnival truck that had supposedly crashed in the same area around 1934.
Ah, there it is. I knew it. I was like, oh, it had to have been from a zoo or something. Nope, he was a carny. The snake escape.
The what? What?
It's the Great Snake Escape. Do you think the satanic cults that formed around there are actually not satanic cults and they're just a cult that worships the snake? What if all the sacrifices, they're just feeding the snake?
That's what I was getting. No, that's literally, I already had that written down. That's what I was going to get. From giant mutated serpents to bloodthirsty satanic cults. From a government cover-up of a chemical spill to ghost stories of a many. I could think of nothing better to start our podcast off with the stories from Helltown. The question is, what do you believe? What has merit? Why leave remnants of the society, churches, homes, vehicles, and the graves of our ancestors in a national park? My question for you, John, is, do you think Helltown, Ohio, is the real deal?
No.
What you said earlier with the whole serpent and Satanist thing. Well, here, let's start simple here. Let's start at the beginning of well, I don't know if it's the beginning of time. I didn't read the whole Bible here. I always listen and pay attention slightly. What was in the Garden of Eden? A serpent. Who was the serpent? Satan. What do Satanists worship? Satan. Boom. There we go. Connection. Also, and we wonder, why are there ghosts there? Sacrifices of the kids there, dog. From who? The Satanists. Sacrificing to who? The serpent. Who does the serpent eat? Kids.
Like, this does sound like a really good premise for Ari Aster's next movie, you know? Like, he just makes a Helltown movie because he has, the snake at the end with fire around it and a bunch of cult members.
It's basically just like Midsummer, but instead of, you just take out the bear, it's a snake.
I'm also assuming that this is, when we refer to Satanists, we are not referring to more modern day type of Satanist as it's known, right, Nate?
No, I believe a lot of the paranoia from the Internet Archives of what you can find about Helltown pretty commonly is very much a product of its time. I think a lot of this is very much a lot of these articles, a lot of these hearsay stories and things like that are talking less of the modern Satanists that we know today that are not necessarily actually worshiping Satan, but worshiping this ideal and deconstruction of organized religion in general. This is more of like satanic panic. Don't let your kids play Dungeons and Dragons or listen to heavy metal, especially backwards.
Or like the Beatles.
Yeah, like pure just satanic panic, paranoia type shit. That's kind of where I think a lot of this where at least the people writing these stories are coming from, and where our depiction of the term Satanist here really lies.
Yeah, Nick, I think your theory is my favorite, how you combined all of them. Since the whole thing's so absurd in the first place.
The chemical spill, yeah, probably they messed up. Little chemical spill, hey, who hasn't messed up in a chemical spill? But why did the government want everybody out of there? Because they are Satanists as well. Boom, conspiracy.
Wait, what if the Python is the mother of the government officials? They're all reptilian, right? You follow? And they wanted to start a new cult.
I think it sounds a little far-fetched there, Parolski. Come on, be realistic here. Well, I was going to say, one thing I'd be interested to know is, I wonder if there's any caverns or any caves, any kind of, little hidden areas, besides the whole forest thing, but, honestly, Satanists could be part of it still, as well as just sort of squatters, crazy-ass people living in the forest, but, the other one being, maybe a few cryptids, unsure, alien, or just go simple but out there, aliens. Honestly, there's a lot of theories I have with it. It just depends if there's any caverns within the area. If there's caverns, it could probably be a little bit of mix between little squatters, hills have eyes. Well, not hills have eyes. They weren't cave people. They were desert weird ass people. But weird. There's cave squatter people, just snatching people. Honestly, who knows? We live in a weird, crazy world. But yeah, I no clear definitive answer on that one.
I think that's enough for today.
That's enough for today? All right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to Nick's crazy conspiracy theories and ghost stories.
Yes, and thank you for making it through our first episode.
If you want to hear more of this kind of content,
or watch my new horror short films,
subscribe to Scary Box on YouTube.
You can also follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Every week of October, we will be giving you more bone-chilling episodes
leading up to our Halloween special.
And stay tuned, as later this year, we will be starting Season 1 of the Scary Box podcast.
Until next time. Alrighty, Nick. You think that one was good?
I thought it was pretty good. I don't see why not.
Well, you fucking suck.
Okay, well, whatever.